my goodness. Welcome everyone to the community with eXp Realty. It's a great day. It's Wednesday, July 10th. And I am so excited because we have four amazing people on a panel today, all going to be talking about superstar success within like the first 90 days of doing business in real estate at all. These are people who just came in, they pulled that bat and they just went, nah, and knocked it right out of the park. And we're going to say, what did you do? What was your strategy? What did you do differently than a lot of other people? And that's going to be really exciting. So we're going to get into that today. And we've got two of our amazing leaders, Craig McHugh and Jason Giles, coming in, and they're going to be moderating and asking questions. Really, really fun stuff for today. And by the way, if you have a friend who should be here right now, shoot them a text message and say, hey, show up, and just send them the link. This will be awesome. But let me go ahead and bring everybody up on stage. So here's Craig McHugh, and we've also got Jason Giles. And I know that they brought some special guests with them today to be chatting with us about what they did differently in the first 90 to 120 days of being in business in real estate. And I'll let you know, guys, this is superstar success at the very highest level. And it blows me away when I see, we're calling them young guns, right? When I see some young guns come in, could be young to the industry, although these guys are pretty young. That's awesome. I love that. But young guns, young to the industry, and they came in and they didn't hear all the chatter and all the meh, meh that goes on out there from people who get disenfranchised. What they heard was opportunity, and they ran after it. And that excites me, Craig and Jason. What are we going to learn today?
Yeah, I mean it's all the stuff that we all know, and I think, I've been in this since 2016 and, kind of lived through the heyday and the good times. And, I missed fortunately missed the first big one. Actually, I got my license in 2007 and I went, this sucks, and then got out and then went back in 2016, but, missed all of the, like, really having to do the difficult work. And when I teach classes, and I'm for those of you who heard me teach before, it's like there's two different ways to do this. One is the last 5 years we've been standing under the tree, just letting the fruit fall down, trying to dodge the fruit hitting us. It's been that easy, and in the last year or so, it's like, if you didn't know how to climb the tree, if you never learned how to climb the tree and go find the fruit in the top of the tree, it got a little hungry, it got a little like grumbly in your tummy.
No apples for you, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's how I lost 65 pounds, just slowly, starving.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, Kobe
it.
is amazing. Came to me from the two-letter brokerage, from a team there, and I think he had a interesting experiences there and learned a lot, but just hit the ground running. I always worry about new agents, especially anytime in real estate, and just trying to find their feet. And man, he hit the ground running. He's been with us just right around 4 months now. He's already capped, I think, 8 or 9 transactions. And is just knocking it out of the park, and is just a self-starter, and I think he's going to have a great message for us.
Kobe's going to hit that year one icon. That's awesome. And I know we've got Raymond Coburn on here as well. Raymond's absolutely incredible. I think he's actually been on for like 5 minutes, one other call that we did, but I'm excited to dig in a little bit deeper. So here's what I'll do, Jason and Craig. I'm going to get out of the way and let you guys just dive in with Kobe and Raymond, and I'm sure I'll interrupt from time to time because I don't know how to shut up. All right. I'll see you guys in a little bit.
Okay. Well, you're not the only one, Jeff. I don't know how to shut up either. And going back to the tree analogy, I'm afraid of heights, so I partner with somebody who can climb that tree for us. So I'm very grateful you guys are here. Raymond, I know you were on before and you shared what you were doing. And really, this was a topic that Craig and I talked about. We talked with Jeff that, we got some younger guys in the industry. Raymond's got a bit of a background with real estate before coming over to the non-dark side, I guess we'll call it. And, he's got some experience that he's brought over. Joanne brought him over to eXp. And, it's just kind of really, when we look at what these guys are doing, they're going to share it with us. One thing that I think is really important is that they, being new in the business, they're putting in the work that they're, when someone says, hey, Kobe, this is what you should do, he just goes and does that. Hey, Raymond, this is what you should do. He just goes and does that. Doesn't overthink the process. And that's kind of what we're going to dig into today. Like, where are we at? What are we doing daily on our activities? And, with me, I'm full transparency. I've overthought the process too many times throughout the years that I had to get back to the basics. And that's why I love doing this. So, if we'll start off, Kobe, we could start with you, man. If you want to just share a little bit about yourself, what you did before real estate, and maybe a little bit about your goals.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Thanks everyone for having me on today. So a little bit about me before real estate. I bartended for like 6 years, and then I followed a friend of mine over to the two-letter agency, Keller Williams. And I got started there. I to be quite frank, I only did, I think, 4, maybe 5 transactions in about 7 months over there. And it wasn't cutting it. I wasn't growing and becoming, the entrepreneur and real estate agent I knew I could be. And so I decided it was time for me to look a different direction. And that's when I came over to eXp. Kind of going off of what Jason just touched on, actually, I think one of the big things for me is, the process is already there, right? Like when I got started over at Keller Williams, I was really encouraged to, you know, um, do what I felt good with, do what I felt was like easy for me to do. And I think that kind of got me started off on a little bit of a slower path, because you can look around and there's tons of information everywhere, from YouTube, books, mentors, etc., of people that can tell you exactly what it is you need to do, and how to do it. And so I think that's what really kind of helped me to start shift my business into full gear, was just doing the things that needed to be done. Me personally, I think one thing that I attribute to some of the success that I've had as of recent is really just being very disciplined and structured in my daily routine. I was talking to Craig the other day, and I was like, I'm younger, I'm 24. And so I have a ton of friends that are like, oh, you're your own boss, quasi, right? You run your own business, so you can set whatever hours you want, you can do whatever you want, you don't have somebody to ask time off from work. And I think one of the biggest things that I kind of had to get under my head, try to wrap my head around, was like, being your own boss, the most important thing is that you do work your own 9 to 5, right? Like whatever hours it is, you set your schedule and you stick to it. And so that's one of the big things for me. And I mean, I could dive into what my schedule is. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll cover that next, but
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah. How about you,
Yeah,
Raymond?
and for those of you that don't know, Keller Williams is a small startup brokerage out of Texas. So I didn't know if anybody knew that or not. But no, I appreciate that, Kobe. That's awesome. And then Raymond, I know you shared before, but why don't you share again with us, kind of, what you did before this, and how long you've been with eXp, and just a little bit about yourself.
Cool. Thanks. So yeah. Thanks for again. As some of you, most of you know, that I used to be a wholesaler. Prior to, actually, back in the day, I sold Kirby vacuums, very much like Jeff here. And I sold Kirby vacuums door to door in California. Transitioned into, actually, I met with Robert Kiyosaki before he wrote his Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. That kind of started my mentality on, not working the 9 to 5. I've always saw myself kind of outside of the box of the row of sheep, and just kind of being in that workflow, and kind of being my own boss and wanting to go off and do my own thing. And so what he had said to me during that dinner that we had, kind of spiraled my whole entire career into trying to seek better and better opportunities for me and my life and my family. Fast forward, I did wholesaling for about 5 years. Nationwide, I was doing finding deals for cash buyers, getting their buy boxes, criteria, stuff like that. I learned a lot about what a lot of investors are looking for. Once I started to see how the wholesaling industry was kind of changing and not really for the best, there was a lot of things that I was doing and being taught how to do, which was really not very good. And it was basically taking a lot of would-be great deals for the homeowner and giving that would-be great deal to my cash buyer on the back end, and being more of a selfish type of person. And that was not me. That was not me at all. And so that's when I became a realtor, to do everything the right way. Once I became a realtor, those cash buyers had to go. I could not really work with them because of the way that they wanted me to work with them. I just could not go down to that level anymore. So with that being said, I bring that awareness to my clients now, let them know, hey, this is what's kind of out here in the world of real estate. It's not something that I do, but it's something that me knowing what has happened and what can happen, that doesn't happen to you as my client. And that is what brings me more of my business. Just knowing what's out there, being 100% transparent with them, letting them know, hey, this is what your house is worth. I just ran into an incident 2 days ago on one of my leads where an 81-year-old, and it kind of makes me a little bit emotional that it actually happened to him, but he's 81 years old, Navy vet, got called up from a wholesaler out in Arizona wanting to buy his house for, he actually told him it was just for an evaluation on his house. Turned out to be that his caregiver that had lived with him for 20 years signed the document at the 81-year-old's discretion because it was just an evaluation. Turns out I had said, well, what was that document that they signed? And she says, well, I have it right here. Let me pull it up. Okay, contract to purchase and sell agreement. I said, oh my gosh, what did you sell the house for? Market says it could go for 310, 320 out in Coos Bay. It's a massive house. He sold it for 210,000 and he owes 148,000 on it.
Wow.
So I reached out to Brian Benjamin, and he advised that I drop it and hand him over to an attorney until that clears up. So that is a potential listing. They definitely have everything that I have stuck with them to. They're going to list with me when that clears out. Most likely it will clear out because it's non-performing on the wholesaler side, because the days have elapsed already. But other than that, though, so that was one, and I have 2 listings that I have contracts going out to right now. One up in by Lafayette. I didn't even know Lafayette was actually in Oregon, but it is. So one up in Lafayette and one here in Roseburg coming up here for a short term. So I got 3 listings right now that I'm working on.
Awesome. That's great.
Boom.
Well, let's jump into some of these questions. I think, and these are ones that I think can benefit not only new agents, and I think really for me, I want this to be, for folks that are new in this and are trying to kind of find their groove, trying to figure out how to climb that tree. I think there's, you two can give a lot of great information on that. But I also feel like, I know for me, I'm as guilty as a lot of other agents, who, we all as leaders talk to agents every day. It's like this, a lot of them like, this industry sucks now. This is really hard work. This is, it was always hard work, but it was, it's now. It's different. And I think for a lot of us, it's just like anything else. You get accustomed to, what this is how I do things, and then it changes, and that happens in every industry. But I do feel like in ours, it can be almost overnight kind of extreme. So I think with both Raymond and Kobe having to coming in and having a perspective of like, this is how we do this job, it can be refreshing for us old timers as well. So I'm really talking to Jason and Jeff more than me, and as far as old timers, but so why don't you go first, Kobe? I mean, I think just run down your day, and I think Kobe, you actually sort of alluded to it earlier, like, hey, we've all been doing this. I've been an entrepreneur since 1989, but what does it take? What do you do, when you get up in the morning, what do you do to kind of get off on the right foot and be focused for the day?
Yeah. I think I'm kind of cutthroat with it, I guess you could say, or I'm pretty strict with myself as to what my daily routine is up until about 1 o'clock. And then after that, I'm a little bit more flexible, but I wake up, and I guess as we go through kind of like the mindset stuff, your routine stuff, all the, ins and outs, you're going to see that a lot of what I have to say probably flows together, because I think it all influences, the rest of it. Your daily routine will influence your mindset tremendously. So, but I wake up at the same time every single day except Sunday. And Sunday, typically I wake up at the same time because my body's pretty accustomed to it. But I'm up at 5:30. And then I make sure I get some key things for me, at least. Sunlight and cold water exposure. I know those are pretty well known to be good things to do, but doing it within the first 30 minutes to hour of your day is pretty key. Just in, getting your hormones firing, getting your body going, and getting moving off on the right foot. So I wake up, I'll read a little bit, meditate a little bit, listen to some music. And then, by 6:30, I try to make sure that I'm on my way to the gym. Since 2016, or 2017, I've been a pretty avid gym rat. I used to compete in male physique bodybuilding, and then I got into powerlifting, and then, that's kind of stuck with me up till this day. So that is a pretty huge staple for me in my routine, and just making sure that I'm getting off on the right foot. So
You
yeah, I try
said
to
cold. You said cold immersion. I know you.
yeah,
You're a cold plunge guy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't
Yeah,
done
I
it
mean,
yet.
cold plunging, and I'm not gonna, I won't get too deep into it because I'll get real nerdy with it. But I mean, cold plunging is probably some of the best, and you don't have to, be as crazy as some of us getting into, ice baths and freezing stuff like that. But at least doing like cold showers and cold water exposure, I mean, it's pretty huge what it does for your dopamine levels, your serotonin level. I mean, there's so much stuff that it does that's very beneficial, both mentally, emotionally, physically, the whole nine yards. So I try to make sure that I do that at least 15 minutes a week. So, however you split that up amongst your week, I typically try to do like 5 days, 3 minutes at least. But yeah, I do that early in the morning because it gets you going. And it really gets, it's stronger than caffeine, and I'm a caffeine fiend as it is. So, you add some cold water in on that and it gets kind of crazy. But, and then at the gym by like 6:30, 6:45, I try to make sure that I'm home by about 7:45. Eat my breakfast, which is typically, or it has been for the last couple months, just doing like a protein shake, something real light carbs. Again, going back to, I'm kind of a, nerd when it comes to, mind hacking and biohacking, stuff like that. But carbohydrates definitely slow you down. They cause your body to produce a ton of serotonin, which just makes you relax. And so I try to make sure that I'm not eating a lot of high carb meals until, later in the day, typically after like noon, 1. And then by 8:30, I get into kind of what I call my blocked work schedule. So 8:30 to noon, that is my prospecting time. And I try to make sure that, regardless of what I have going on, that time is reserved for strictly prospecting. And I can get into kind of my prospecting routine too.
Yeah, and let's come back to that because I
Yeah,
do want to talk about that. But yeah, for both of you. So you
yeah.
block out a couple hours, 2, 3 hours of.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, 8:30 to noon. That's typically my blocked out prospecting time, and then I take about an hour off for lunch. Again, I try to make sure I get back outside, walk my dog, go for a run, whatever. Um, I'm a big sunlight exposure guy, so get back out, have some food, and then 1 o'clock, one to about 1:30, 1:45. That's my follow-up and cleanup time. So I go back to all the notes that I took when I was prospecting that morning. I put them all in KV Core or whatever CRM you use. Make sure I get all that logged, get them on the right drips, on the right, whatever you're doing for your follow-up. Make sure that's all cleaned up, and then by 2, that's when ideally, my appointment setting comes into play. So hopefully by that point, I will have appointments set for the day. And then I can do my prep work from like 2 to 3, get my CMAs drawn up, get the info that I need before I go on the appointments, get everything printed out and ready that I can. And then boom, then you get into my appointments. And, there's plenty of days that I don't have appointments. There's some days where I have 2, 3 appointments, some where I'll have none. And I don't put a lot of value to, well, I shouldn't say that. I don't put a lot of stress on myself in regards to the number of appointments that I have every week. I simply put stress on myself with the amount of people I'm touching, with the amount of calls I'm making, with the amount of numbers on that end, because I know that appointments will come from that if I keep doing everything that I've told myself I'm going to during that 3.5 hours of prospecting every day.
Yeah,
And
and
so
for
yeah,
those of you that are Larry Kendall fans, I've talked about him a lot. Ninja selling is it, this business, and I mean, Kobe, we've all learned this. Kobe is learning it. It's a pure numbers game. The more touches, I mean, the rule of thumb with him is every 100 touches should get you somewhere, 3 to 5 connections that you can then turn at least one of those into a transaction. So, it is purely a numbers game. And I think one of the other things too, and I think Kobe and I have talked about this, that I think is important for especially for new agents. I know a lot of times you think like, oh, the thought process is, if I touch 100 people, if I have 100 touches, I'm going to get transactions. Yes. But I think what's really more important, and I think I've seen this over the years, myself included, it's the 95 no's that make you a better agent. Because you learn, people will say stuff and the things will happen and you'll just be like, it's same thing with door knocking. I say, go door knock, not because it's fun or because you're going to get like instant transactions, because people are going to say stuff and you're just going to be like, I have no idea. I got nothing for you folks, and I think so don't discount the 95, like you're an idiot, leave me alone, or hangups, or just the kooky stuff people say, because honestly, those will make you a far better agent than, the transactions. You'll get really good at like objection handling. And honestly, and for me, that is the most important thing. Learn how to move past the first no. I mean, there's the old selling technique. Everybody has to get to no before they can get to yes. It's just human nature. So the more you can handle objections and get better at it, the faster you can get past that no into, having a conversation.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I just want to ask one quick thing on this, because, keep in mind, we're talking 0 to 90 here, right? 0 to 120, right? Newer agents, you've been in the business for a little while. It sounds like you just made a decision of what you had to do, and you've already capped. Well, so if you don't mind me asking, you've been with eXp about 3 months now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how,
at middle end of March, somewhere in there.
okay. So a little while. So if you've done that and you've capped and you have your routine, how many transactions was that in your area?
So I've closed 12 sides.
Okay. 12
13.
sides.
13.
12 sides since March. And Jeff, I think you know the numbers. Craig, you probably know it. Average real estate agent does what, 4 transactions per year? And since March, you've now 3 times that, because I truly believe it's because you stuck to the schedule, and also with the mentorship that you have. I know Craig's mentioned you a few times in meetings that we've had, and that, you really you're a sponge, and you say, okay, well, what is it I'm supposed to do? You figure out how you do that. And then we'll get back to some of the lead stuff, because I'm really curious. I've met a lot of newer agents that they say, well, I'm told to go lead gen, but I don't know where to start. So we'll get back to that, because I'd love to see and hear from what you do, what your lead gen activity is with the calls, where you get those calls from, and how you've generated that business. So any other questions, Craig? We'll jump over to Raymond here for a minute.
Let's maybe the same question for Raymond. Like, give us the 5 minutes. This is what I do to get myself mentally, physically able to and ready to go for the day.
Sure. So I typically, like maybe most or some, I wake up with like a negative wall, right? That wall that says, today is another day, wahoo, and I usually knock that out with a cup of coffee. After that, I'm checking my messages. I'm checking because I've turned into, I was licensed in January. I didn't have like previous brokerage experience. So I was licensed in January, and then I started with eXp, I believe, like late in January, because I had like a certain amount of time to plant my license in a brokerage. And the best one that I could find was I was mirroring myself saying, hi, I'm Raymond from so-and-so brokerage. And the only one that really sounded the best to me was I'm Raymond from eXp. That's how I settled with eXp. And then ultimately I reached on out to Joanne, and she was like, hey, do you know how you know my husband? And so 3 years ago, previously, I met with her husband at a property me and my wife were looking at. So anyways, my day basically starts out with a cup of coffee. I check all my messages, follow-ups with all my clients. Again, I turned into a listing agent. So right now I've got about 15, 16 listings with the 3 that I'm currently working on. And a lot of those are diversified into multifamily, single-family residentials, fixer-uppers, and commercials. I've got 6, 7 commercial properties, all with a 7% or higher cap rates on them, and 2 of them are restaurants. So that is a whole nother kit and caboodle when trying to market something like that. And of course, my marketing, I can see where my marketing is reaching. It's reaching all the way from here to New York, to Texas, to California. And I also work with other agents as far as referrals. So I have some of my clients that I know in my sphere that actually have properties out in Chattanooga that happen to be commercial properties. And on the commercial side of the properties, a commercial agent can work in like 48 different states or something like that. So that was kind of cool to find out. So my referrals from that, they're working on closing. So I definitely make sure that I utilize all network aspects of our abilities here within eXp. And I think eXp is one of the only ones that allows us to have that freedom. And the freedom is so good. I've got to say, it's been definitely a blessing to be able to work around the way my mind works, because my mind isn't just a one-track mind. I can't just focus on one thing. I have to focus on multiple things to kind of keep me stable, I guess. So that's kind of how I start. But again, I check on my messages and stuff like that. I just keep in contact, and then I go back and I repost all my clients throughout the day. About 3:30, 4 o'clock, I'm done. The rest of the day is mine.
Awesome. And this is going to be a little sidebar. So for all of my fellow, agents who are looking to build teams or to build their organization, what I recently heard a saying, and I think these two exemplify this, which is, and I apologize, I can't remember who said it. I was at it was the last eXp con, I think, but he said, and if somebody knows, please add it, put it in the notes or say something. If you want somebody to fetch, if you want to, get a retriever, like don't get a dachshund to play fetch with. And I'm paraphrasing it, but the way he said it was like, if you want something to retrieve, get a retriever, get somebody who's willing to like go out there and do it. Like you can throw my golden retriever, I can throw the ball till her legs fall off, and it's like, and I have a dachshund too. And if my dachshund is like, maybe he might be into it, he might not, so if you want somebody that's going to go out and find the business, do the work, look for folks like these guys, look for people who are, who are willing to go out and do the work. There is something about bartenders. I don't know. They're willing to work. They understand that model. They understand, sales, other people, anybody that's done door-to-door sales, like, man, you understand rejection at a core level. So, make sure, like if you're looking for people who want to play fetch, who are going to go out and get it and kill it and bring it back every day, look for those folks. So, anything on?
Yeah. Well, I was going to throw in here, it's nice because we really have 2 different spectrums here, right? We got 2 newer agents that they run their business very similar with being disciplined on what they're going to do throughout their day. They both put that in there, and they come from 2 different backgrounds of how they're doing it, right? We got, Kobe, who gets up and he cold plunges. I thought about doing that once, and then I went to the hot tub. So that's about as far as I got. Right.
The coldest place I ever get is when the shower runs out of hot water.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And then we got Raymond, who came from a background of wholesaling. And what I love about his story is that he got to a point where he said, this does not align with my integrity. This is not who I am, and I need to get out. And then his day starts with coffee. Kobe starts with gym and working out, but they both have the same mindset of this is what needs to be done throughout the day. So I wanted to ask because I really feel that you guys have it where you two are at right now in your season of real estate is that you guys are right here. And that's the best place to be because you're not over here, you're not over here, you're not looking what's going on down here. You guys are right here with what it looks like with your mindset. So Kobe, I was going to ask you, maybe take a few minutes. When you say you do lead gen, when you came over, you had a few sales already. Where did you start going after to get those conversations? What sources did you use other than your sphere? If you use your sphere, that's fantastic. But what sources did you use? If you had to come into Oregon today or California today, what would be the first lead generating system you would do?
Yeah. Um, and kind of, before I get started on telling you exactly what I do, being 24 in a market like this, I mean, first time home buyers that are my age are few and far between right now. So my sphere is kind of non-existent, I would say, for people. I shouldn't say that. I definitely have a sphere. I'm not discouraging anyone from working their sphere. But I had to start kind of thinking outside the box in regards to I don't have 20 friends that are ready to buy or sell a house right this second. And so for me, I kind of dabbled in a lot of things, trying to figure out what I liked best. And then I realized, I was listening to, I think it was Brandon Mulroney or I don't remember. It was some YouTube real estate guy, and he was like, realtors oftentimes won't stick with a specific lead gen for longer than like a month if they don't see results. And he was like, you're not going to start seeing results come through for the first 90 days. And so that's when I was like, okay, well, I need to just dig down and stick with some stuff. And so, when I say in the morning, my lead gen, I start every morning out by calling expireds, expireds and canceleds. And I call this, and a lot of people call it like the Red Seas, right? Because they're getting called by 80 realtors a day, probably on that first day, second day of their house coming off the market. And I've done out in the 4 months that I've been calling, I think I did 4 listings off of expireds or canceleds. But which isn't a ton, but here was a big takeaway for me in kind of getting into the Red Seas, so to say, was, like Craig mentioned earlier, I got really good at, not only objection handling, but also just dealing like with straight up, FUs by, to the point where like that really didn't, and it doesn't phase me at this point in my career. So when I run into like minor objections with people that are more willing to work with me, I can walk right through that without even blinking. So I start off with that. Then I'll get into FSBOs. FSBOs in my area are actually kind of not there right now. We've probably had maybe 1 or 2 new ones, 3 a week. So that's not really been a focus of mine. It was for a bit. My first listing ever was a FSBO. And so, but that's part of, I make sure that I'm touching and I'm calling and all that stuff. So, and then I've gotten a lot better at, with those, not only calling, but making sure that I'm doing follow-up activities. So I make sure that I'm writing a letter to anybody that I've had any sort of meaningful conversation. And I have a pre-written letter, I print them out, put their name on it, print it out, hand sign it, fold it up, put it in an envelope. It takes me maybe 2 minutes a letter. And I think that has helped me a ton with actually being personable to people. And then open houses, I try to do at least 2 a week. If I can make sure I get one Saturday and Sunday, if not do 2 on one days or 2, making sure I get those. I make sure that I do that. And then social media, just being out there and just talking to people about real estate. I have my mom's realtor. So fun fact, my mom bought a house 2 months before I got my license, and she knew I was getting my license, but it was kind of a rush. It was a whole thing. And so we had a little bit of beef over that, but we're cool now. But my mom's realtor, she helped her buy, I think 5 or 6 houses since we've lived here. We've hopped around, and, I talked with her. And I was like, Sally, how do you, because it's her and her husband, and they do, I don't know, probably 60 transactions a year together, 60 to 70. I mean, they're good. They've been doing it forever. But I said, Sally, how would you advise me? Because I talk with her pretty consistently. I was like, how would you advise me to really hit the ground and start running? And she told me when her and her husband got started, it was actually just her husband and she was pregnant. And she said, you know what? He decided that he needed to make it happen. And he talked to every single person he could about real estate. And so that's something that I kind of took and just embodied in myself in regards to, just have it be a topic of conversation and don't force it. But the more you do it, the better you get at it, right? The more naturally it just kind of flows, and then everybody starts knowing what you're doing. And so that definitely has helped me build my business and expanding my sphere into people that weren't in my sphere until right before I helped them buy or sell a house, right? Um, and so that's that. And then also, kind of just understanding as well that business builds business. So when we talk about, not looking at the end goal, this year, I guess I was thinking about the numbers. Actually, I think it's been 15 with eXp closings, and it didn't start until I didn't really start taking off until I had 2 listings live, and I hosted open houses at both of my listings. I gained a buyer off of each open house. I had one of those turn into 4 deals for me because it was somebody that came, bought, told me their parents were moving in, helped them buy. They went to a yard sale, referred me out to them. They bought or they sold. So, I really think just for me at least, keeping my mindset on the daily to-dos, the dirty stuff, right? Talking to people, making a Facebook post. Yesterday, right? Like there's opportunities everywhere. Yesterday I posted, hey guys, I think I said something like I'm getting featured live on one of the biggest real estate podcasts in Colorado Springs, just like broadcasting yourself out there as, this is me, this is who I am. And, I'm not going to drown people in the fact that I'm a realtor, but I am going to let them know like, hey, and I am going to post my business. At least for me, that's been kind of a big thing. Letting people know just, where I'm going and what I'm doing. So when you talk about lead gen stuff, I think that's where I'd start. I would call the people that have already expressed that they wanted to sell or that they tried to sell, couldn't. At the very least, I've had fantastic conversations with people. I've built a pipeline of people that have maybe been discouraged, or maybe they've decided that the market's not right for them to get the value that they need, to even get out break even. So they're just going to hold off right now. Well, cool. Well, those people, I'll be talking to them in a year or 2 years or 3 years, I'll still be here. So I think if I were to move somewhere, that would be my first step, is really just try to get out there and talk to people. I know that sounds kind of cliche, but.
Well, there's a couple of things that you were doing that I think I want to just sort of reiterate, and we've talked about as well, which is, the one we said when your mother, knew you were getting your license and still didn't use her. I think one of the biggest mistakes new agents make, and I've talked about this in another class, is, everybody thinks that, hey, my family, my friends, all my circle of influence are going to use me. And I think it's Larry Kendall again who talks about this. And the cold hard reality, actually, when I first got into the business, this old seasoned vet pulled me in and he told me like, hey, I got a newsflash for you. Your friends and family will be the last people to use you because they know you don't know what you're doing. Everybody else, you can fake it. Your friends and family are going to be like, eh. And I think to that end as well, where I think Kobe, you've done an excellent job of addressing that, is what they want to use you, right? Yeah. They want to use you. They're just looking for something. And that something is evidence of success. And we talked a lot about this in another class that I taught about building your brand. That evidence of success. And I think a lot of new agents do, I call them secret agents. Don't be a secret agent. Yeah. Even our new agents, that are our existing agents, you've been doing this for 20 years, and maybe social media is like, I don't need to do that because I have my people, No, you need, in this market, you need to do that. You need to be posting on social. You need to be putting it out there. And for a new agent, it doesn't take long. If you're putting like closing at an open house, I'm doing an inspection, I'm doing work, all of these things, put it out there. Get on LinkedIn, get on Facebook, create your brand and put it out there. All they want to see is you're doing it and having even a little success. They'll go, oh, look, yeah, Kobe's a real life agent. Like, I'm not going to be his guinea pig, which is what people want.
Yeah. So, and kind of going off that too, even before I really got the ball rolling with doing a bunch of deals, back right before I joined eXp, right when I joined eXp, I was running into people that I had been posting stuff on Facebook, and people that I thought I was good friends with that hadn't like reacted or messaged me or said anything, but I'd run into them in person. And, the first thing out of their mouth would be like, "Oh man, I see you've been killing it in the game." And I'm sitting there like, not really. Like, I've only done a transaction in the last month, but, to everyone else, that's the first thing that pops up on their mind. And so, I like to think that when they have a real estate need that comes around, I am gonna be the first thing
Yeah.
to pop in.
I have an agent on my team just yesterday put $1 million listing. He has a buyer, and I said, "Where did you get that?" He goes, They saw me on social media. It's my friend's parents, and they saw me on social media, and he just put $1 million house under contract." I'm like, maybe you should do more of that. Like, go get out of my office and let's go. So I'm sorry. All right, Raymond, like, tell us more about, lead gen. What are you doing? How are you growing your business?
So when I first started doing my lead gen, I was kind of doing the door-to-door type salesman type thing. Although in my particular area, sometimes the houses are fenced in, and then there's like big dogs that are kind of scary. And then the house is like way back in the woods, and you're like, well, that's a dark forest. I'm not going to go back there. So you just kind of leave the little business card taped to the side of a mailbox. And so, side note, I did make sure that with the postmaster that it was okay to do so. So,
I thought you could see you ran. I outran so many dogs getting to that front door.
I was selling vacuums.
Oh yeah.
So then after that, I was posting anywhere, everywhere on Facebook. Like people were like, "Can you please stop putting at everyone? Because I'm getting tired of seeing you." What is that?
Those are the mean ones. The little ones are the one you got to watch out for.
So I was posting my ad on Facebook, like any and every classified ads and Facebook and everywhere, like telling everybody, like, "You looking to buy or sell a home? Like, here I am, here's my business card, blah blah blah." And so I didn't really get too much from marketing on that, but I know that there's a lot of people that know that I do real estate. So now hopefully when they are ready to sell real estate, they'll think of me. The part where I do get a lot of my listings is from reaching out to FSBOs. I also did cold calling. I used to use like PropWire and stuff like that, calling like the not the DNC list, but the other list, because like PropWire does a really good job of showing you where the DNC lists are at. That can be a little pricey, $100 a month isn't too shabby, plus 10 cents per lead. But I got enough listings where I'm super busy right now with the marketing that I do on that. I kind of push that off to the side right now, and basically what I focus on right now is just FSBOs, because my strategy is that when knowing what I know about the market and how wholesalers, and not only just wholesalers, scammers, right? Title fraud, people trying to take over people's. I had Joanne is very familiar with a particular situation where I had a client call me up from a realtor.com lead that I had paid. And he had said, "I want you to sell my vacant land in Myrtle Creek." Sure enough, I was like, "Okay, sure, let's go ahead and pull it up." So I ran the comps and everything. He's like, "Well, how much do you think I can sell it for? Go ahead and list it." So as I pull up the customer service title report, I'm noticing that this is a vacant land, first and last name match. It's everything is there. And then I get down to the improvement 1, improvement 2, improvement 3, improvement 4. There is a brand new house built in 2023 with a detached garage and everything else there. So I told my wife, I was like, "Hey, we got to go on out there and take a look at this property." Sure enough, there's a brand new house built on this property, and the guy doesn't even own that property, the one that actually called me and was impersonating the actual owner. And so fast forward, now whenever somebody calls me up to list their property, I'm like, you do own the property, right? So, I mean, definitely checking out those things are things that I've learned, even from a one-time experience. It resonates. But as far as marketing, it is basically just saying, in today's market, it's mainly about the reach. It's about the reach, it's about the exposure, it's about the presentation. And those basically what I've been seeing as far as being a listing agent now is those are the key aspects. Those are what property owners are wanting. You know, how well can you expose my property out there to bring in a lot of buyers and a lot of attention to my property? And the higher the attention, the higher exposure, the higher probability that their property is going to sell versus a property that might be better, but have less marketing, have less exposure, right? That's been sitting there for 120 days on the market. And so that is kind of something I do. As far as commercial side of things, my commercial marketing has really brought me to the points where I've never thought I would ever be in communication with certain people, but I've actually communicated with the CEO of Starbucks. I have his friend's name and he's my friend on LinkedIn and everything else. So, and then there's several area directors for business development and growth with Starbucks, Dutch Brothers, Taco Bell, a lot of those type of people that actually do site managers and site developments that I have been blessed to actually meet and talk with. So has that turned into a transaction? No, but it's turned into a relationship and a connection that will probably lead into something much, much bigger in the future. I've also been in communications with other developers. So I do reach out to people that are developers. So like construction site companies, you know, I'll say, hey, a property that you might be developing in the future and you need help selling it, I can sell it for you. I can help you market that. And that's kind of where my marketing goes. My first 2-3 months into this, I was doing about 100, maybe 75 to 100 calls a day. And those were a mixture of texting and calling and emailing. And that's kind of, that led to really nothing. But I think a lot of people actually knew that I now do real estate. But a lot of the cold calling, a lot of those type of things really didn't turn into anything. I was putting in like 150% effort on it. And I was like, okay, well, the more effort that I put into it, at least I should get at least 1 or 2 back. And I didn't. And it really wasn't anything about my script because I was using multiple different types of scripts in different types of calls. One day I'll use one script, next day I'll use a different script just to kind of see what works. It was a lot of them were super catchy. Like if I was talking to myself, you know, I would sell to myself. I would totally. But you know, it was like
your favorite client, right?
I was my own self, you know, transactions there for a while. But it was that that wasn't working for me. What really was working for me was identifying where people are in a situation that they need to get out of. People don't want to be at home, you know, scheduling showings with agents and random people just showing up at their house. They want to have it, scheduled, timed, right? They want to have somebody that they can trust, somebody that they can rely on to get them out of a situation that they may not be in. And that's the reason why I got into wholesaling. Before, I had thought that people that couldn't sell their home, I would help them find a buyer for their home. That's the whole mentality of why I got into wholesaling, but then it turned obviously dark. But on the realtor side of things now, I can do the same thing, but legitimately. I can help them market in a way that they can get the highest value, make the whole entire transaction simple and enjoyable for them. So basically, all they have to do is just sit back, say yes or no to a couple of questions, and then get their check at close of escrow. And that's basically my marketing for listing agents or listing clients.
Well, what I love about this and what you guys have in common is the mass action. That's what you guys are doing, right? And I love that, Kobe, you're having success with making the calls. Raymond, that really wasn't what you had success at, so you pivoted. And that goes to show that with the lead generation activity that you're going to pick what you like, pick what's comfortable, pick what you can be consistent and disciplined with, and what works for you. Sometimes we think of lead generating, that means we have to pick up that phone. That means we have to go knock on the door. Some people aren't comfortable with that. I know Joanne, she does calls all day long. She loves it, right, Joanne? Okay. She's a perfect example. She doesn't enjoy doing calls, but she has other ways that she attracts business, right? She made 0 calls since 2016. So,
Zero calls ever.
right. So what's great about this is we're learning from two guys who are newer in the industry who knew that they had to do an activity, and they picked the activity that worked for them, and they've had success with it. And I'll share something here. Kobe, you said for sale by owners are kind of limited in your area. Here's what's great about the community and what we have just in real estate in general. There's for sale by owners all over the world. If you run out of expireds to call for sale by owners. This is for everybody. Call them everywhere. You can refer them out. There's always sources to be able to get to. Like you're doing phenomenal, man. You got 15 transactions with eXp since March. That's why you're here. We're learning from you. Raymond, you've got 15 listings. I mean, that's phenomenal. Who here wouldn't want, 15 more listings or 15 more transactions? And it's, when we're looking at this, and this is why I was so excited to do this, there's nothing magical about what's happening. Kobe didn't show up with a gold bar and say, buy from me and you're going to get this. Raymond didn't show up with a cold plunge kit and say, if you do this, I can make you a millionaire, right? They just came in and said, okay, this is what we need to do every day. And they've got their schedule to do it. So I'm going to ask you just real specific, Kobe, on this one, because I was in a stage where I was getting to the gym every morning, and then I stopped going for a little while, and then I'm back into doing it, right? Have you had a day to where your morning didn't start the way you wanted it to? You didn't get a chance to do the reading that you wanted to. You didn't get a chance to get to the gym like you wanted to. Have you had a day where you weren't able to do that? And how did that affect your day in business?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had far more than just a day, and I think Craig and I were actually talking about this yesterday, and I don't know if you want me to touch on this right now or not.
Yeah, no, that'd be great.
But
I call it this. So you talk about with the roller coaster part of it. And actually, what we're going to talk about right now too, I want this to be sort of the interactive part of this. I mean, there's a lot of you out there, especially some of the agents have been doing this for a while. I would love for you guys put it in the chat, turn on your mic, because we were just talking about this. But go ahead, Kobe.
Yeah. So there was a point in time where I was super dialed in. I didn't miss a day in my routine of 5:30 wake up, cold plunge, sun, gym, food. And then there came a point in time where I had for 2 months, I think I had at the peak, I had 9 deals in escrow all at once. Right. And so there's definitely some days where I got thrown off track with my prospecting. I didn't maintain my prospecting hours. I was super stressed out. So I, woke up late, didn't go to the gym. Definitely went through probably, I would say up until maybe mid-June, I started getting back on my grind. And so, I mean, night and day difference, right? Whenever I have a consistent, thorough, and very disciplined routine in the morning, the rest of my day always flows 10 times smoother. When I don't get a good start to it, it's kind of like at least for me, I'm trying to figure out when a good point to start would be, when does my day start now? Right. Because I didn't have the beginning of my day that I was supposed to have. And that has kind of led to, me trying to figure out that balance of making sure that you're properly handling, everything else that you have to do in life besides just real estate, because real estate's only one facet of everyone's lives. Right.
Yeah.
And yet still keeping on their team. But yeah, I'm a huge
having that balance of, we've all been on it, but new agents seem way more susceptible, which is holy crap, I'm so busy, I'm getting so busy. And then it's I'm not doing anything else but transactions. And then it's holy crap, I got nothing to do. There's no business. I'm how long before I'm gonna get paid again? And it's oh wait, I'm busy. So how do you stay off? It's inevitable, it happens, but how do you flatten out that curve? And I know Joanne has her hand up, and she's a master of this. So you're up, Joanne.
I actually have a question for Kobe, because
Okay.
I have never been able to, in any way, shape, or form, master routine. I hate routine. I mean, I can do certain things. There's certain things that are consistent in my life is I work out and I eat. Okay. So those are the non-negotiables.
Yeah.
But other than that, he's saying that he, goes to his appointments, at 3:30 or something. Like, what do you do when you have a client coming into town for 3 days to look at property? I'm saying, like, if you have buyers and actual sellers, I don't understand the whole I'm available after 3:30 thing for appointments. I've never been able to understand how you guys that are on this, strict routine to prospect, and then, okay, yeah, you have a buyer coming to town. How do you manage? And you kind of touched on it a little bit of, you can get off and then you have to get back on, but it causes you stress. So it's like, help me understand how you actually juggle everything and still have a life if you have that kind of strict hours that you do certain things.
Yeah, no, for sure. Clients always come first, right? So if I ever have a client that's coming into town, or if let's say I have a client that works nights, or I need to meet with them in the morning, like, I'm always going to make that a priority. I guess it's more just kind of like a baseline of where I really try to keep my schedule at, if everything could be perfect on a day-to-day basis. But I think one thing that, and this kind of touches on what Craig was saying and what Jan was saying, one thing that I have tried to get a little bit more disciplined with myself on is at least having strict stuff for me in my mornings. Up until 11 noon, I feel like for me that's kind of more of a non-negotiable. Or I'd like to set that for myself as more of a non-negotiable, right? When I had 8-9 deals in escrow, that a lot of that got kind of tossed to the wayside. And, I started finding myself, and I'm at a point now where I'm like, man, I got to get back to prospecting every day to make sure I keep that up, and I'm not falling off the wagon there. But, I'm not a very organized person in general myself, actually. I struggle using CRMs. I struggle to like it. It gives me anxiety having to look at it. So it's kind of been something where I just had to look myself in the mirror and say, hey, this is something that for your own good, you need to force yourself to do, I guess, for lack of better words, and get on it. I'm definitely not perfect at it, but yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah. Clients always come first though. If I have clients that need to shop, or I have a meeting that needs to be, earlier in the day, like, I'm going to move time and make that happen.
You're much more disciplined than I am. And I think that's what it comes down to. I mean, I'm just always flying by the seat of my pants, and somehow I get deals in and closed and whatever. But I know that I'm leaving a lot on the table by not being more. I need to get one of those bracelets that says I can do hard things, because to me, the CRM and all that stuff is really, really hard. So I tend to go to, I'll go show property, or I'll go talk to somebody, or I'll go to, go to the grocery store and meet a client, or blah, it's much more, I don't know, just much more my personality. But I do appreciate anybody that can be disciplined and be consistent. It's just like, you're my hero to be able to do that.
Well, and I think too, kind of looking at it, for me to get myself started on the track of producing, I was ultra disciplined and ultra motivated with it. And then as things started to kind of pick up and go up and up and up, and, okay, well, I have 3 listings here now, and I have 3 buyers here now, I also started kind of flying by the seat of my pants. But now, to be, quite frank, like, I'm at a position now where I still have deals in escrow right now closing out for a while, but, I don't have as much business lined up as I did back in June. So it's kind of looking at how can we balance it to the point where we don't have to go through that wave. And I know for me, it's kind of like an evolution thing, I think, because back in last August, when I was at the other brokerage, I had 3 deals in escrow, and I remember that drowned me, right? I was super new agent, had no clue what I was doing, and I was drowning, thinking that I was the biggest hot shot in town. And I was definitely not prospecting whatsoever, but I closed 3 deals, right? Made pennies on a dime for what I probably should have made due to the brokerage. But, I closed the 3 deals, and then I didn't have another closing until, my 4th closing was end of January, from October to then. And so it was kind of one of those things where now I'm at a point where it's like, it wasn't 3 deals in escrow now, it was 9 deals in escrow now. But, we're trying to learn how to keep that balance all the way through. And so I think finding a happy medium of the discipline versus flying by the seat of your pants is.
And I think Kobe learned an important lesson one day. He called me up. He goes, I have 4 closings today. I'm not sure if I can do them all in the same. Can you help me? I'm like, what the? What? What? Like, are you out of your tree, man? So you learned an important lesson. So one of the things I want to talk about, and I apologize, Jason, and we're going to get to you, Raymond. I want you to answer this next question. But 2 things I learned that kind of take a lot of the climb and at least the fall out of the roller coaster. One was building your sphere of influence and being intentional about curating and growing your sphere of influence, staying involved with them. Because I know, Joanne, you're a great example. Like you're not having to make phone calls, but you've been doing it. You have such a great sphere of influence that you're getting business from them. That was great. The other thing for me personally that really kind of took a lot of the ups and downs out for me was starting my team. And so when you're getting a little piece of all the folks on your team, that kind of helps even things out a little bit. And that's probably a great topic for another day. But Raymond, would love to talk about, what are you doing to curate and grow and stay in touch? I'm setting you both up for this because I know Kobe and I have talked about this, and a lot of new agents, I think, make this mistake, which is like, what are you doing to stay in contact with your sphere of influence and grow and nurture it so, you can get that future business. Larry Kendall says, if you haven't noticed, I'm a Larry Kendall fan, but, every transaction should be worth 10 more transactions and $100,000 over the life of your career from people, either future business or their friends and family. So talk about what y'all are doing to nurture your sphere of influence after the closing. You're up, Raymond.
Okay. I'm sorry. One of my contacts just signed their document to list.
Yeah.
That'd be a little. So my sphere of influence last year, actually, as a wholesaler, I had started and you can find it still now, about 280 members. It's called the official Southern Oregon REI Meetup Group on Facebook. The reason why I made it official was because me and Ryan Plummer were 2 admins of 2 different groups. He made one of Rogue REI Meetup Group. I made one of Southern Oregon REI Meetup Group. He made it Southern Oregon REI Meetup Group. And I was like, okay, well, I'm official. So I put official Southern Oregon REI Meetup. So ultimately, a lot of would-be members for him came over to me because we were official. And so I had strived to make sure that a lot of our members do not post any of their wholesale deals in the thing unless they were licensed or the property owner of that property that was being sold. So with that being said, I think it built a lot of trust and integrity within the group. So a lot of people actually that are looking for deals come to that group and want to know more. When we do have our REI meetup groups, we meet in person. I do call up the facility to like Mountain Mike's Pizza in Roseburg. I call them up and I'm like, hey, can we have our meeting there? And they're like, yeah, sure. How many people are you guys going to have? Well, maybe 40, 50 people. They're like, okay, sure. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll open up the coffee shop right next door to it as well. And we got plenty of parking for you. And it's free. So they all come and we have our meetings. Sometimes we'll have real estate attorneys coming there and talking, and people from title come in and talking about their products. Another thing that I do also, besides owning that Facebook group, I also have partnered with a lender from Kind Lending, where I do a lot of my YouTube and podcasts talking about, first-time homebuyer opportunities, what it looks like for a first-time homebuyer to leave their apartment to actually getting a home, and what are the steps needed to do so. There are a lot of great loan products out there right now that lenders are able to work with, and me being able to help them find their property kind of goes hand in hand, and it's a really good combination. And we've been able to really work. A lot of our podcasts are choreographed, so we make sure that we're definitely on the same page when it comes to something like that, and that he's not talking about things that he shouldn't be talking about, and I'm not talking about things that I can't talk about, but simply because I'm looking at it as, I'm not a realtor. I'm not experienced. I'm leaving an apartment. I have, a pretty good job and I have an okay credit. What do? I want to get that house. that's my mindset when I'm talking to people on the YouTube channels. I've also, for those that don't know, I also do have a couple investment properties. Me and my wife, we have three, well, we're about to sell the fourth one, but we had we have four, now we have three rentals out in Missouri and Kansas. And then we have our fourplex here in Roseburg. So we have investments coming in, and that stabilizes the income greatly. And I think investments is definitely something that we should all be getting into.
But are you doing anything to just, when after a transaction closes, are you doing anything right now to, whether it's, house anniversary, any kind of touches, Popeyes, are you doing anything like that to kind of, I mean, the podcast sounds amazing, and I know I'd love to do a Facebook group, but I've never taken the time. But are you doing anything to just keep, nourishing and nurturing that your prior clients?
My prior clients, yeah. So I always touch up with them, and I'm like, "Hey, happy 4th! How you guys liking your house? Did you do any fireworks out by there?" When we actually closed, I got a cardboard paper, right, and I cut it out into a key, and I wrote "Just closed" with Ray Coburn from eXp, and then I put a little copper wire that I bent around it, and I put their home address on that little tag that swings, and they thought that was the cutest thing ever. They were like, "Wow, we're really gonna remember you." And I was like, it was like a 5th grade type of art thing. And like some really sloppy writing, but I mean, like, they appreciated it like so much that I had time to actually take out to do that for them. And they put it up on one of their shelves in their front room, like, "This is our realtor." Not only that, they've also referred me to a couple other future friends of theirs that also will be looking here once rates start to go back down into more favorable rates for them to buy. That particular client purchased with an inheritance fund, so they didn't really have to worry about any rates. So
yeah, and I think it's critical. And I think one of the mistakes new agents make is they get into this mindset of forward, I just got to keep prospecting, and they forget the folks that they've done transactions with. And it's the number is 82%. I mean, that's a national average. 82% of people who buy their next homes don't use the agent that sold them the house, which is crazy. It's also great because I know I've got an 82% chance of they're not going to call that person. So how about you, Kobe? Anything you're doing to try and stay engaged with those folks?
Yeah. Well, I guess I could share kind of from the learning curve perspective of the staying in touch with folks. I'll tell you, when I got started and I had done, 3-4 closings, end of last year, it was super easy because I was like, well, I'm just going to be friends with them. And I'm pretty big about making friendships with all my clients. Sometimes I get a little too personable, I feel like, but I get pretty tight with my clients. And so I didn't really see a world in where that would be too difficult for me to, I have them on Facebook. I'm messaging them, asking them how moving in's going, all that. Well, now I'm at like 20 families that I'm working with or have helped out. And so I definitely had to kind of take a step back for the day. And I was like, man, you got to make sure that you're not slipping through the cracks on these people's mind, because, now it's like, I can only imagine, like 4th of July, right? Like I sent all my SOI, like, happy 4th, stay safe, have a good holiday. But then I was like, man, what happens in 2 years when I have 100 past clients? And then, on top of my sphere, on top of, my friends, like, that's going to be overwhelming. So, I mean, in regards to like closing gifts, I try to do something, pretty personable to the people. Like there was these ladies that I helped buy a house, and they had mentioned at one point, I asked them what they're doing on Memorial Day, or I don't know, it was a holiday, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna drive up in the mountains and go play some chess in the back of our Jeep." Well, I got them like a custom made, oak wood chessboard that had, their names and my name on it, and some cool stuff. Loved it. And then yeah, I mean, I'm at a point where I'm actually, next week I'm doing pop buys to all my previous clients, so I'll be going by and saying hey to everyone, bringing them some summer goodies and stuff like that. But it is something that you're right. Like I didn't foresee a time in where I would be overwhelmed in keeping up with, my clientele and people like that. So it's definitely something that I'm getting very organized on, or trying to get very organized on now.
Yeah, and you mentioned CRM. I mean, I don't know of anyone that loves their CRM. I mean, I like my CRM. I don't love it, but it's like getting better and more disciplined at just putting that info in, setting those dates, setting those follow-ups, identifying the people in your sphere of influence and the things you're going to be, how you're going to engage with them. I know my wife she's the queen of like just like loving on our clients, and if it was up to me, we'd be screwed because I'm horrible at that. But she does such a great job of just plugging into their lives and engaging with them. We did a video on it, and it's on the community page. But Jason, so we've got about Jeff. What do
Yeah.
we got?
Well, I want, what's nice about this, and it's always like, like I said, when I come into these, it's also a reminder of what I should be doing, right? Because you know how many times I've missed my lead gen? How many times I didn't have my routine in the morning? How many times I didn't do that social media post? And when we really think about this, the amount of work that if we took 4 to 5 hours out of the day, Monday through Friday, and said, all we're going to do is be disciplined on these activities, we would be highly successful. It doesn't take 8 or 12 or 14 hours. What I like about what you guys do, and I'm kind of just wrapping my head around it, this is little to no cost activities that you guys are doing. An open house costs you 30, 40 bucks maybe, right? Some signs and what you got to put out. Your expired and your for sale by owner list, maybe $100 a month to be able to get that. So we've got 2 guys here that one's had 15 closings. I know you've had a lot of closings too, Raymond, and you've got 15 listings. And it's not like they went out and they're spending $3,000 a month to do it. They're just deciding on these activities. And I loved how you said, Kobe, that you don't, I don't like my CRM. I don't like these things. But you understood that these are the tools that are needed for this industry with the way that we're going. And your CRM is your gold mine. So I would tell you, dig into that. I mean, I have not utilized ours the way we should have. And that's one way you can consistently do your follow-up after the close that reminds you of what you need to do. And Raymond, I loved how you do. I mean, it cost you $6 to do your closing gift of the key. People love that. You came up with something personal for what you did. It doesn't have to be this lavish thing every time we do it. And this is why we were excited to bring these guys in, because, we're not talking about, we have 2 gentlemen here who have been in real estate for less than a year that are having high success. And I like how they've talked about the ups and downs. I like how Raymond said, it's nice to have that supplemental income. Kobe, how you had 3 in escrow and you thought you were really busy. Then you had 9. You're like, oh, I am really busy now. And you've missed on some lead gen. So a couple of things on that. And I really would love some questions from the group here, right? Because there's always something we can learn. But one of the things on that, Kobe, and what I really try to stay disciplined with, and I say try because it's tough, is that if I don't do my lead gen when I'm supposed to that day, I've got to make it up in the afternoon. So if you have clients coming in that want to look at a property at 10 o'clock and that's your lead genning time, and that's the only time they can look, then you say, okay, well, now at 3 to 4, I'm going to do that lead genning, right? You've got to keep that in there. So I want to kind of open it up to the group real, for a few minutes here. Any questions on what these gentlemen are doing, with this amount of time in the business that you guys would like to ask them, or, about YouTube, about lead genning, about daily routine? Any questions from the group?
Hey, Jason, while people are getting their question together, and by the way, guys, use the raise your hand function, because love that. And Kobe and Raymond, by the way, I just have to say really quick, I just want to pepper this in. Absolutely freaking awesome, guys. Like, you're killing it. And so I know that you don't need accolades, but I hope that you understand that part of today is just celebrating your success, and keep going. Both of you are on track to do 80 to 100 plus deals a year. And that's really awesome. It's top 1% level production. So keep it up and be the top producer that you're clearly destined to become. I will say really quickly, we pulled together, I had our research team go out and we grabbed a rare photo of Kobe getting ready in the morning for his morning routine. And we've got that right here. We just wanted to put that out there for everyone. Just a real quick picture of him doing his morning routine, kind of rallying up his energy. So anyway, but yeah, this is really good stuff. And please go ahead and raise your hand. I'm also going to put a poll out there because I'm curious. And here goes the poll. We're doing it. Send it out there. So it's on your Zoom screen. How many deals did you do in your first 3 months in real estate? So we've got a couple options: 0, 1, 2, or more than 3, or 3 or more, I guess. And so we've got people voting right now. If you're on the call still, if you're still conscious because they haven't overwhelmed you too much, go ahead and jump on there. Looks like we're starting to get some feedback, some data. This is really, really helpful, guys. Thank you. It's interesting how it's kind of split. I've got a lot of people in that 1 deal range, a lot of people doing 3 or more. That's kind of testament to who we're surrounded by here, by the way. Interesting how success leaves clues. People who show up to a call like this one are the type of people who do a lot of transactions. But I will say this, my first 3 months, I had a great first year, not like you guys are doing, which is outstanding. And just absolutely really expanding my mind on what's even possible right now and different types of strategies. I was all expireds and for sale by owners. But what I'm hearing from you guys is that you're venturing out even beyond that and having a long view for the fact that prospecting extends into your past client, or Kobe, as you called them, the families that you've served. I love that repositioning because it repersonalizes. Sometimes we depersonalize, especially if you're prospecting based, right? Because you have to do that for the kind of emotional safety of getting rejected and yelled at a lot. And I like that you're reminding yourself these are people, they're families, they're connected. There's a lot of like love and care in building a community around that. It's really good stuff. All right, we've got about 60% who did 3 or more. That's awesome. A lot of people doing 1 or 2, and some folks doing 0. And so definitely, there we go. I locked it up.
And let me throw something out to the tour. If you're a new agent, I want you guys to, there's something I want you to think about. When I'm teaching my classes, one of the things, it can be intimidating to somebody like Kobe or Raymond who are, just knocking it out of the park, can be a little bit intimidating. But I think here's what I tell my new agents. The bar is incredibly low. The failure rate for, is stupid high in our industry. 90% or so agents, in a 5-year period, drop out, quit, fail. You do not have to do 150% better than any. I always tell my new agents, if you do 10% better than the average agent, you're gonna kill it. Just make a few phone calls every day. Do an open house every weekend. If you knock on a few doors, you're just doing those few things. You are doing infinitely more than most other agents ever even do in their career. You do not have. It doesn't have to be this giant lift. Just do something. Just do, make those calls, make a few calls. Set a goal of making 10 calls a day. I guarantee you're going to find somebody. Set a goal of like, this is my neighborhood. This is where I live. I know people here. I'm just going to go introduce myself. One of my classes, go give them some information about the neighborhood. Set a goal of like, I'm going to go this side of the street this week because honestly, we all live in neighborhoods. How often does an agent knock on your door? Rarely. And especially if you come with something of value to them. You're going to build that rapport. You're going to do exactly what these guys are doing. And here's what I can guarantee you. Once you do that, and all it takes is to have 1 or 2 people go, awesome, thank you. I appreciate you dropping that off. And you're going to be like, yep, I'm going around the corner and doing the next block. My first year, I knocked 1,200 doors. I did 59 open houses. And you just have to look at like, these are what I do. This is my job. I work weekends. When I'm working weekends, I do an open house every Saturday and Sunday. I take Monday and Tuesday off. I work on the weekends. It's no different than any other retail job or job where you've got to work on the weekends. You're just doing open houses. I can tell you when I did my 59 open houses, I calculated how many transactions I got from those open houses, and I took the number of hours that I had spent doing it. And this is the kind of head games you need to play. I was making $592 an hour doing open houses my first year. $592 an hour. So instead of sitting there like, crap, nobody showed up, I would sit there and go, all right, another hour, I just made another $592. Do that. And I guarantee you'll be like, all right, just like Kobe making calls. If you do the math of how much time you spend on calls, or Raymond doing what he does, you'll go, okay, I just made a lot of money making all those calls. So it's just a pure numbers game. Sorry.
When I know,
go ahead, Kobe.
Oh, I was just gonna real quick. I was just gonna say one quote that kind of kicks me into gear was Gary Vee said that the biggest lie in business is it's not that simple. And like when you really think about that, like that is the biggest lie. Like it's been done time and time and time again. And if you just do it, like it happens. So.
Yeah. Joanne, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something really quick. I'm kind of famous for not doing cold calling or door knocking, but I did accidentally door knock when my daughter's dog took off after a deer. And I was in charge of taking care of him. And I literally was knocking on doors and I said, hey, have you seen a black and white pit bull? If you see him, here's my card, call me. And so I like passed out business cards by trying to find the dog that I was in a panic to find. So that was like really quick, got a lot of ground covered. They didn't want to stop and talk because I was in a hurry. So anyway, if all else fails, just have your dog run away and then do it that way.
Well, two things I got from that, Joanne. I'm not going to call you to dog sit.
No.
And then the second one is I'm going to say I'm dog sitting and the dog got lost and I'm going to go door knock my neighborhood. So
Exactly. Whatever worked.
That's perfect. Yeah. So, I think just a little bit of effort. It I mean, these guys are doing obviously a lot, but I mean, it's manageable. I mean, I didn't get the impression from either of you like this was draining you or grinding you or, because there is reward and there can be some big rewards. Like the guy on my team, he puts a social media ad, got $1 million listing. I'm like, man, I don't even know how to calculate the ROI on that. Like 100% return on it cost him nothing to post on social media and got $1 million listing or got $1 million contract. So it's like, all right, that doesn't suck. Any last thoughts, guys? Kobe?
Well, I was just going to jump in and say, I just want to share a quick story because, when I first started sales back in 2008 in the auto industry, for the first few months was phenomenal. I was doing great, everything else. And I realized the reason why I did great is because I listened to the people who had already done it and I just did what they told me to do. And then shortly after that, I started not doing so great. And I realized that the correlation was I started trying to reinvent things way too soon. I started trying to just do different things that were maybe going to make it easier for me. Maybe I was going to get better deals quicker. And I got away from it. And luckily, I had a mentor come up and take me aside. And he said, hey, this happens to a lot of people in sales. You have a great deal of success when you first start. Then you start overthinking the process. Then you start trying to do it a different way. Then you start taking the tools that have proven to be successful over many years and changing those when really it's just being back to the basics. So for anybody in their business who's looking to get to the next level, take a deep breath, step back. What am I doing in my business? What are the basics maybe I've gotten away from that have proven to be successful? And that's what these two are doing. Two different types. We got one really social media driven, starting up groups. We have another one who's really on making calls and for sale by owners. But those are both things that they're doing with mass action that if they kept doing that the rest of their career, they would be highly successful. As soon as you start trying to change things a little too early or maybe without the right mentorship, because there's time for change, right? We get with a mentor, get with somebody who's been through that. The nice thing about a lot of people in this group is we've had our very high highs and very low lows. So reach out to somebody here and say, I'm thinking about doing this. Do you think I should do this right now in my business? Before you make that decision, it could save you thousands too. So you keep your mindset where it's at. You guys in 5 years could be retired off the investments you're going to buy and just be helping past clients. So you guys, phenomenal. I really appreciate you guys being here. Anything you guys want to throw in before we head out, or Craig, yourself?
No, Kobe, yeah. What do you guys would love to hear? Last words from y'all.
The only thing I can probably say is that what I've come across is, a lot of the agents or the clients that I list for, they're stating that they were previously listed, right? And their agents didn't market the way that I have marketed. So that kind of lead me into, knowing that there is a lot of bread and butter in how we market, how we're able to help our clients, whether that's buying or selling, and let them know that we are the best choice for them to go with. Whether we know what it takes to sell their home or we know what it takes to help them find that exact perfect home that they're looking for, and be very specific with it because they are. And that it's not just a $5,000 or $7,000 check for us. It's their life investment in it, right? They're investing more in it. and we have to match their need, their requirements for what they want above ours. Ours is a paycheck, ours is a connection, ours is a relationship with them. However, on their end, it's everything they got, everything that they work for. And we have to match that with them in that sincerity when looking and helping them sell or buy a home.
Awesome. Kobe, we got a minute left.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think I have too much left to say. I would just say kind of going off what Raymond just said, I think for me, one of the big shifts and talking to expireds and canceleds and people that have been listed and hasn't worked out, or they don't like the realtor, they weren't communicative, is like Alex Hormozy says, sales is just helping people make the best decision for themselves. And so being steadfast in that you are the best decision for them to make. That's all we do, right? We sell ourselves and our ability to help them out, and making sure that that you are that guy. I think it has really helped me kind of smoothly not be a salesman, but be a salesman, And so, yeah.
Perfect. Jeff, we're turning back to you. The inmates are no longer running the prison.
Woo! Oh man, that's crazy. What an insane call, guys. And I am just so unbelievably proud to be affiliated with you guys and to watch your career continue to blow it up and to learn from you, because you guys are doing some awesome stuff, really leading the charge and expressing your leadership already in the real estate industry. Keep buying what you're selling, keep investing, keep pouring back in to the community. Thank you, by the way, for your time today. And what you guys will notice, by the way, is they both showed up today to give back to others. They're only a few months into their careers, and here they are giving to others. It shows a lot on what their heart is in the industry. It tells you a lot about a person and what their longevity is going to be. Selfish people tend to die faster in this industry, and selfless people tend to last a lot longer because they have a longer view. Doesn't mean that you can't get fast results. And so thank you guys again. Really appreciate everyone being here. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.